It's the No Holds Barred Witchcraft podcast. And guess what? I got a feeling that you could be feeling a whole lot better than you feel today. You say you got a problem. Well, that's no problem. It's super easy not to feel that way. When you start to get confused because of thoughts in your head, don't feel those feelings. Hold them in instead. Just turn them off like a light switch. That's my personal philosophy. What do you think, Chris? Is that healthy?
What, switching them off like a robot? Or the fact that you just plagiarised somebody, I'm assuming?
No, not at all. This is something that the Christians use. It's a cool little Christian trick. They do it all the time. When you're feeling certain feelings that just don't seem right, treat those pesky feelings like a reading light and turn them off. So does that sound like a healthy psychological attitude to have, Chris? Is that good mental health?
Well, I think it's good for you. Acknowledging
It
that you
certainly
are
works.
acknowledging that you're a robot, I think, is really good growth for you, Liam.
Beep. Robots come with buttons, and you just switch them off. I cannot relate to these people that have like depression and a bad day, and they don't just switch it off. You know? Someone's that died, you loved them. Okay, you've got to go to work today. Don't be thinking you're taking a day off of work just because some fuckers died. I mean, come on, you can deal with that when you get home. You know?
Okay.
You just switch it off. Or press the pause button.
Okay. Dealing with depression with Liam.
Today's topic is, well, the episode is essentially don't cry over spilt milk. So what we're going to be talking to you about is how you deal with terrible, catastrophic incidents in life. So when you're really depressed, when you're going through a rough patch, do you think that's worse for witches, or do you think it's better for witches? Because there are two ways you can go with that, I think. Because I think if you're in an emotional state and you interact with the universe emotionally, then if you're angry, then you might cause a storms and the like, and that's bad. But at the same time, if you're an empowered person, like a witch is supposed to be, surely that gives you the tools necessarily to deal with your emotional problems and general shit day. What do you think?
I think you're right. I think it's a mixture of both. I think depending on, because there are
I
lots of
never
witches
said
out
that.
there
I
that
said you've
have.
got to pick one or the other. This is binary. Robots like binary. It's a 1 or a 0, Chris. There is no 3. Or 2, in fact.
There is. There is. It's a bit of both. I think on one hand you've got, a surprising amount of witches out there that don't have their shit together emotionally, and I think therefore it starts to impact their life also. So it starts to slip into them, their emotional state, causing mishaps or not being able to focus well enough to practice. So I've taken a few breaks from magic in my lifetime when I've gone, actually, I don't think I should be practicing right now because I is a basket case. I think it's a personal thing of where you kind of need to draw a line and kind of go, okay, is it safe for me to be practicing right now without causing an apocalypse? I don't think so. So I shall, switch it off for a while. And by that I mean switch off the magics, not switch off my emotions.
See, I take the other approach. I switch the emotion bit off. The emotion chip, I just yank it out.
Yeah, but can you imagine what I would be like if I switched my emotions off, Liam?
Yeah, you'd be fucking fantastically fun. It'd be brilliant. It'd be like the old you.
There'd be no earth left. I would just destroy the fucker. Then there'd be nobody would be worrying about that one-eyed fella if I switched my emotions off, Liam, because I'd just tear through this shithole of a place. I mean, this
Now you're
lovely,
sounding
lovely
like
world.
someone that's depressed, calling this lovely universe that we exist in a shithole.
Oh, come on. Consider some of the other universes we've been in. This is not the prettiest one.
No, but I think it has a certain charm. Once you get over the smell, it does have a certain charm to it.
But it's interesting you say that, though, because the charm of this one is humanity. So,
Is it?
and that's the bit you want to switch off.
Yeah. Okay.
The human
Now,
experience.
can you give us an example of a time which has pushed you to switch things off? Your magical self, your magical abilities and the like. Because I'm thinking that people are going to gravitate too much towards I'm an attention seeker. I mean, I'm a psychic and an empath, and it's all too much. It's all too much
Oh,
working with the
okay.
people in the office, so I need to work from home and be signed off with stress because I'm picking up too much emotion. When I'm late for the deadline and I fucked up an entire project and my boss says that wasn't very good, was it? I sense the inner animosity, the anger in there, and it's too much for me. Therefore, I need to go to my GP and get signed off with stress. You see? Are we talking about
Oh,
things like that?
okay.
Or are we talking about something else? Give us
No,
an
no. I think I probably need to clarify. No, I'm not. I'm not talking about. I am talking about a depression. Some dark times. What I'm not talking about is the empathy psychic shit. Like that, you kind of have to keep switched on because that's my survival instinct. Why would I switch that off? Um, no, I'm talking about practicing. So, not manipulating energy and taking a break from practicing witchcraft. But the main reason for that was obviously, like I said, during that time, um, I was out, well, losing control, shall I say. Downtime's important too, but that's out of actually having a steady balance rather than saying, oh, well, I'll switch it off today because I need a day off. What I mean is you kind of put it on standby so it triggers if something triggers it, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Does standby
Yeah, it does
analogy
kind of make
work?
sense. It's kind of like when I phase out doing the dry thing, but if something changes, I focus back on the road.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like
like
I'm not
that.
really paying attention to my driving, but if a car gets closer to me or something changes in the environment, then I do click back in.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like I say, that well, if you are at the point where your psychic ability should be, then yes, it will trigger in and out. And I think it's important that it's never really switched off completely because, like I
Mm.
say, it's your early warning signs. It's your assistance for making decisions based on the fact that you've got all the information that you feel you should have. All those sorts of things are too important to kind of switch them off altogether. Um,
Well, without it, you'd just be an armchair magician, wouldn't you?
yeah, I
And
think
they've all
to
got their lives together, as we know.
yes, no, of course not. Armchair magicians don't fuck shit up because they don't practice enough to fuck shit up. They may as well just be mundane.
Well, they are basically. They've just got nice armchairs and an expensive book
Collection.
collection.
Oh dear, that's awful. But yeah, I suppose we probably should, just because I feel like it, and the fact that you basically turned around and said, "Why is anybody bothering with depression?" Um, I feel like we probably should throw something in there about shadow work because that term really offends me, and you know it does. Um,
We have got an episode dedicated to shadow work, though.
I know, but I think it needs to just kind of briefly be touched on the basis that it's one of those things that gets thrown around, and the second that you mention the D word, depression, then obviously people are going to be like, oh, it's really important for you to have shadow work and all that kind of jazz. And you know how I get triggered by
Okay.
anything
Well,
Carl
if you
Jung
want to talk
says.
about if you want to talk about shadow work for a little bit, we can do that, and then you'll have to explain this depression thing I hear so much about from people.
What do you mean by explain it?
Well, I don't think I fully understand the concept, if I'm honest.
But I don't think you ever will, Liam, because you need to have emotions in order to understand what depression is.
Hey, my emotion chip is operating at full efficiency.
Oh, okay. For a robot, maybe. But not quite
Yes,
passing as human, Liam. That's the problem.
I empathised with someone this week.
Did you? Did it hurt?
Yeah. No, it didn't hurt. It felt strange. Someone was pouring their heart out to me, saying about how terrible their life is and how it's all going to shit, and that everything that they've tried so hard to build over the past couple of years is basically rotting away in front of their eyes, and they feel powerless to do anything about it. And I
Okay.
felt, it might have been IBS, I don't know. I felt something.
A bit of indigestion.
It might have been indigestion. This was over lunch, so it would make sense because I had just eaten 2
Okay.
of those Tesco meal deals.
Okay.
So maybe it was that. And I think I did eat them a bit too quickly. But let's assume it was emotion for a second.
Okay. I don't
Because I
believe
did
it, and
feel
I'm
something for
struggling
a
to get past
second.
this.
And then I launched in with, well, what the fuck are you going to do about this then? And then we spent constructively spending another hour talking about the things that we could do or said person could do. Obviously, this is something I've noticed about depressives, is they keep bringing it back onto the past. And who wants to talk about the past? It was all like, well, I can't do that. This is sad. It's like, that's in the past. What are you doing now? Well, I haven't been feeling. Yeah, but that's before. What about now? What are you doing? What are you doing now? Come on. What are you doing? That sort of thing. So yes, you talk about shadow work, and then maybe we'll revisit depression, which is called, what's that called? Where you revisit something?
What?
Where you revisit?
It's called
Relapse, that's it. We'll relapse on depression in about 15 minutes or so.
Wow. If people didn't think we were dicks before, they're really going to think a lot more of us today. I don't think not. Okay. Uh, well, I just wanted to bitch about it, but I thought you might have something useful to say about that Carl Jung. Um, I, I don't know. It's one of those subjects that gets thrown around a lot, and I don't like it. I think I don't like the fact it's called shadow work. I don't have a
Because it
problem
doesn't
with the
involve a cat.
concept. I don't. I think it might have something to do with that. I think it's the fact that I don't like the phrase shadow work. It sounds pathetic. I don't understand why.
Well, they advertised the course on shadow work, and there weren't any cats there.
Dear. You're not taking this very seriously, are you?
No, this is why it's difficult for me to get depression.
Oh, I think it's got more to do with the Asperger's, to be honest.
And I haven't got Asperger's. My
But,
clinician says I'm not high function enough to have Asperger's.
yeah, I think it's more the fact I don't like the name I don't like the name shadow work.
What would
And
you call it then?
I think I like it even less since Shadowhunters has come out, if that makes sense. I just think the word shadow just doesn't really sell looking deep to me. Shadow is that effect I cast regardless. Well, unless you switch the sun off.
So what are you going to call it? Psycho sewer work?
I don't know. I don't know what I call it. I just don't like the name shadow work.
Well, we're going to have to keep calling it that because you're not able to come up with an alternative. Should we give some thought points to whoever manages to come up with a better alternative to shadow work.
Oh
Post it
yeah,
in the No Holds Barred
let's
Witchcraft
do that.
Facebook group
I like that.
or on the Patreon.
Someone that can come up with something better than that, because I just find that that's often. I think I also dislike the fact that it's always someone's first answer whenever somebody mentions kind of depression, PTSD, anything like that. And the first thing people offer is, oh, go do some shadow work. And you're kind of like, okay, but no one asked for a a psychological answer. They were asking for a magical one. And I don't.
But your shadow work is magical. You can make it magical.
Go on then.
Well, actually, I am, because technically this has already happened from the perspective of people listening. But I'm doing some shadow work with a certain someone on Saturday.
Okay.
So we're doing a ritual, a shadow work
Okay.
ritual. And that is magical. And it works on a psychological level. But I'm not going to talk about other people's business. And I'm going to save it for the shadow work episode.
Okay, fair enough. I don't know. I have trouble with the idea, I guess. I'm not saying I have a problem with. It's important that you know where your weaknesses are, but it's also just as important for you to actually get rid of them, and actually work on.
But what's your understanding of shadow work? What is the purpose of it, and what is it for your definition?
So for me, it's exactly that. It's the working on aspects of your. Well, I don't know. I find a lot of people, not my definition, but a lot of people's definition is about identifying issues that they have that they can't change, and I don't think I like that part. It's kind of accepting faults. And you're kind of like, well, you can always work on a skill. Any skill that you've got has, even a bad one, has room for improvement. So I don't know. I suppose it's how other people deal with it as opposed to me. I think I really just don't like the word shadow work. It makes it sound pedestrian.
Okay. Well, what would you say your faults are then?
Me? Don't have
Yeah.
any.
Spoken like a true narcissist. You see, this is what I have to put up with behind the scenes, people. You don't understand what I have to put up with.
I'm joking. My fault, my biggest fault is I won't switch off and be a robot like you.
So you admit that that is the next stage of human evolution?
It's not the next stage of Liam. It's the next stage of
No?
me opening all those boxes that I really like to keep closed.
Pandora's boxes. You don't need emotion. It's probably a bad thing to open those boxes with emotion.
Yeah. But if I switch them off.
Okay. Well, I think of shadow work as the shadow self being a sewer, and the sewer is where you put all of your shit. And that sewer it has a capacity. There's a certain amount of shit that can go through that poo pipe, through that sewer. And then if you take on too much shit, what happens is the sewer system gets clogged. And then it backs up, and then backing it up is a spewing shit out of the toilet into your everyday corporeal life. And that's bad. So really, as a waste removal system, I see that part of the person. But there's always shit in waste. There's always shit in the sewer. The important thing is to ask, is this shit being moved? Is it being moved along and dealt with? If the answer is no, then that is what I see shadow work.
Okay.
Getting that sewage moving again.
I get that, but that includes other baggage. That the other baggage that you take on which just sounds a lot healthier than
Yeah.
actually what I think most people deal with, because I suppose they are too overwhelmed by the baggage they've already got without other people's baggage on top. So,
But then sewers connect to other houses, and other houses are other past lives. But we have to see where the blockage is, you see. And if the shit is spewing out in your house and not the other houses, it wouldn't make sense that the sewage, where it's your fucking garden we've got to dig up. And by garden, I mean astral stuff, hence where the magic comes in. You know our thing about the house and the garden and the outside way, yeah, see? Shadow work, garden, that's like the in-between, between the astral and the brain, the unconscious mind. Oh, it's all layered. Carl Jung would cream his pants.
I'm sure he would.
And Freud would psychoanalyze that.
I don't know.
So, let's talk about practical things. Because like I said, there was a certain someone that I was talking to on Tuesday, about how their life's going to shit and how they're not accomplishing things, and that they worked so for many, many years to do this one thing, and then all of a sudden the whole house of cards has come tumbling down. And they're very upset. So I got them to do some magic and stuff to start building again. Because I'm one of those people naturally that I do sometimes I get pissed off and frustrated, but my mind automatically thinks but likes to plan things out, like game plans, like strategy. So even if I try, I can't dwell too much on what's been happening, because my mind's already too busy thinking about the next step. I'm very future orientated, which is bad in the sense that I never stop to appreciate what I've got, or, oh look, everything's happy. Like, I'm not the sort that if I'm going on a little jaunt or a little journey, I'm thinking, oh, isn't it nice walking along here? I'm thinking, right, when I get there, we have the sandwiches. And then when I'm eating the sandwiches, I'm thinking, right, next is this, you know?
Yeah. See, I'm a lot more present orientated.
Yeah.
I like to enjoy everything in the moment and often expand the moment.
So what are some practical ways in which you can deal with, instead of crying over spilt milk, some catastrophic thing happens in your life? How do you deal with that and use magic to deal with that? Because I think there's many things that can happen that can knock people back. And it will depend on what that thing is in terms of how you tackle it in a mundane perspective, yeah? But magically, of course, there's always that perspective of, well, okay, I have lost my job and I can't pay the mortgage type thing. I could think, oh, I need to do some money magic, I need to do some new job magic, blah, 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 blah. What I find, because people can get that because it's logical, I think. What I do find that people stuck on is, I need to do a job spell, I'm panicking, I feel like crap. Much like when you try and do healing magic on yourself and you're ill, you feel like crap, you can't muster up the energy and the strength to do it. It like zaps you. So what are some practical ways of getting around that, do you think? And has that ever happened to you or anyone that you've seen?
I always start everything with a walk, as you well know. But that's because I find that the first thing I need to do is remove myself from the situation, because that's where all the baggage is occurring. So rather than take it, I kind of dump everything there, go for a walk, clear my head, maybe have a chat with a few spirits, and I don't mean the dead. And then that way you come back reinforced, rather than, and kind of with your mind open enough to actually look at the problem. But that's my answer to most things in life, is go for a walk. Walks fix everything. Unless you've just had a horrific car accident and your legs don't work. But, the actual going out, fresh air is a big part of my coping strategy, I guess. But that for me is because that connection with nature is important, and if I go too long without that connection, which I suppose is shadow work, I go too long without that connection and I start to feel shitty. And I don't mean in a depressed way, I just mean I feel heavy and gross.
Yeah.
That kind of sticky, where the air's not is too thick, like treacle. And yeah, everything seems harder to do. But yeah, that's kind of my first point of call is a walk that allows me to kind of recuperate, and I don't mean kind of raise energy, but kind of give yourself enough of a break from it. You know, when you've been sat at a screen for hours and you're kind of like, my eyes don't work, I'm tired, I'm irritable, and you kind of just need that kind of 5 minutes of any other space but the space you are currently in, to then come back so you change your perspective.
Yeah, you go away and then you come back to it with fresh eyes, like when you're trying to do a crossword puzzle.
Yeah, you computers are great at those.
Computers are great at crossword puzzles. Word searches are my favourite. I don't like crosswords, I like word searches. And I tell you one thing that I was always really fucking good at. Non-verbal reasoning. Ugh. That was like my jam. I had a professor in school and she used to give me all these complicated non-verbal reasoning things, and she said, you shouldn't be able to do this. You shouldn't be able to do this. And she said, but I think you can probably do it. And I used to do all these and it would just make perfect sense to me. And she said, you've got certain intelligence, but certain things you're lacking. I'm like, yeah, I've noticed that. Because as soon as you put numbers down, I can't cope with anything that involves numbers. But anyway, let's not launch into the inner workings of my brain.
But that'll entertain everybody.
Probably, but that's not what this podcast episode's about. They need to check in for the Occult Ramblings podcast on tier 2 of the Thoth Witchcraft Patreon for that.
Yeah, but I'm not there to ask questions for that one.
This is true. It's probably for the best, let's be fair. So far, I'm going to be a bit hard on you, right?
Go on.
So far, you've given me the sort of answer I'd expect from a mundane. Now, you're what is it that they call you?
A bitch.
Advanced witch.
Oh.
Advanced witch. That's what the social media people call you. You're an advanced witch and an advanced bitch. So, pulling on all of that, can you give us something a bit more magical than going for a fucking walk?
There's nothing more magical than going for a walk. What is wrong with you?
Aren't you going to give us something about, I don't know, transmutation of energy, turn that depression into energy that can be pushed into some other shit like a luck spell? Or
yeah, but all that stuff comes afterwards. You need the separation in order to actually not think about it. The walk is about you disconnecting with all of it, so you can come back, look at the pile of shit that your life has become, and then start to do work about it. So in that part, then you start to then approach the how do I fix it? And then depending on what kind of problem it is, will depend on what magical solution you'll have. But yes, transmutation of energy is one opportunity, particularly if you've got an energetic problem, then obviously it's whether or not you're capable of building some kind of machine in order to actually work its way through that. But I think people don't take the time to actually, because in that moment everything's going a million miles per hour and you can't grasp anything, and people go, oh well, I can't not think about it, I need to keep thinking about it. And you're like, no, you need to go and have 10-15 minutes of just nothing, as in walk into the void and have nothing, and then come back out of the void and kind of go, okay, I see this pile of wank in front of me, how do we unpick this?
Right, so go for a walk, basically, Chris says, and then you'll come back with fresh eyes. Very useful. And on that bombshell, I think it's time to end the podcast. So goodbye for another week.